Look closely at this street. If you didn't know its history, you would think it's just another peaceful corner of suburban America, a place where neighbors wave to each other, children ride their bikes, and families find their slice of the quiet life. But 23 years ago, this very block became the epicenter of a media storm that transfixed the entire globe. I visited the former home of Laci Peterson in Modesto, California today, the same day that A&E has released their brand new documentary. Standing here today, outside the former home of Laci and Scott Peterson, the silence is almost heavy. Right now, a brand new A&E documentary, Scott Peterson, The New Evidence, has just hit airwaves, reigniting worldwide interest in a case many thought was settled decades ago. Even after more than 20 years, this modest home on Covina Avenue remains one of the most recognizable and scrutinized crime scenes in American history. It's a physical monument to a tragedy that permanently changed the true crime landscape. But what really happened behind these walls on Christmas Eve 2002? And why, decades later, are we still searching for answers? Today, the neighborhood is tranquil. The air is warm, the birds are singing, and the house itself has gone through multiple owners over the years, selling most recently in 2022. It is now a private residence. As we film from the public street, we must remember that the people living here now have no connection to the tragedy. They deserve our absolute respect and privacy. As I continued down the street here, I reflected about how many people came out to search for Connor and Laci, how many people took time out of their schedules, their hearts so invested in finding them safely. When you look at the house today, it is almost impossible to reconcile this calm exterior with the chaotic scenes of police tape, satellite trucks, and hundreds of grieving community members holding candlelight vigils on these very sidewalks. Our drive to the former Laci Peterson home will start here at Sutter Memorial Medical Center on Coffee Road. Today, it's a bustling hub of healing, but 23 years ago, this was the hospital where Laci Peterson, 8 months pregnant with her first child, Connor, was likely planning to give birth. It is a place of promised beginnings that for the Peterson family never came. To truly understand the geometry of this tragedy, we are going to make the drive Laci and Scott knew well, from the doors of this hospital to their former home on Covina Avenue. It is a short 10-minute drive, just under 3 miles through the heart of Modesto. As we drive these streets, we are traveling the same roads where police searched, where a community held its breath, and where a family's hope slowly turned into a nightmare. In late 2002, the Laci Peterson house was home to 27-year-old Laci Peterson, who was 8 months pregnant with her first child, a son she had already named Connor. She was bright, vivacious, and deeply loved by her family and friends. Living here with her was her husband, 30-year-old Scott Peterson, a fertilizer salesman. To the outside world, they were the picture-perfect young couple, eagerly preparing for the arrival of their baby boy. But on December 24th, 2002, that picture-perfect image shattered forever. To understand why this street still holds such a grip on the public consciousness, we have to go back to that fateful Christmas Eve. As we continue our drive, let's discuss the chronology of the tragedy. On Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2002, Scott Peterson claims that he left the Covina Avenue home around 9:30 a.m. to go solo fishing at the Berkeley Marina, roughly 90 miles away. He returns in the late afternoon, finding the couple's golden retriever, Mackenzie, in the backyard, still wearing his leash. Laci is nowhere to be found. By 6 p.m., Laci's stepfather reports her missing. In mid-January, as hundreds of volunteers search Modesto, police receive a tip. A massage therapist named Amber Frey comes forward, revealing she had been in a relationship with Scott. Frey exposes that Scott claimed that he had lost his wife and that this would be his first Christmas without her, weeks before Laci actually disappeared. In April, the remains of an infant male are found on the shoreline of San Francisco Bay. The next day, the partial torso of a female is discovered nearby. DNA testing quickly confirms them to be Laci and Connor Peterson. The search ends, and a double homicide investigation officially begins. On April 18, 2003, police arrest Laci's husband, Scott Peterson, near a golf course in La Jolla, California. He has dyed his hair blonde, is carrying $15,000 in cash, multiple cell phones, survival gear, and his brother's driver's license. Prosecutors allege he was preparing to flee to Mexico. The arrest set the stage for what many called the trial of the century. In June 2004, the trial began in Redwood City, California, after a judge ruled that Scott could not receive a fair trial in Modesto due to the overwhelming local media coverage. For 5 grueling months, prosecutors built a circumstantial case. They had no murder weapon, no eyewitnesses, and no definitive cause of death due to the condition of the remains. But they did have Scott's behavior, his lies to Amber Frey, his lack of emotion during the initial search, and his calculated trip to the Berkeley Marina, the very body of water where Laci and Connor's remains eventually washed ashore. On November 12, 2004, the jury reached a verdict guilty of first-degree murder for Laci and second-degree murder for Connor. Scott Peterson was sentenced to death. But the story didn't end there. In 2020, the California Supreme Court overturned Scott's death sentence, citing significant errors in the jury selection process regarding those who oppose the death penalty. In 2021, he was resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Then, in early 2024, the Los Angeles Innocence Project took on Scott Peterson's case. They filed a series of petitions pointing to, quote, newly unexamined evidence that they argued could prove his actual innocence. However, in April 2026, a San Mateo County Superior Court judge denied Scott's latest bid to overturn his conviction, ruling that the claims of new evidence were legally insufficient and procedurally barred. Yet, the legal battles continue, and his defense team has vowed to appeal. As homicide investigators and forensic profilers look back at this case, they see a masterclass in circumstantial prosecution, but also a case with vulnerabilities that the defense continues to exploit to this day. Let's break down those two vastly different narratives presented by the prosecution and the defense as we continue on this journey. Detectives and prosecutors argued that Scott's motive was simple. He wanted to escape the financial and emotional responsibilities of fatherhood to live a bachelor lifestyle. They presented evidence of his secret life with Amber Frey as proof of his intent. The Marina trip. Prosecutors argued it was no coincidence that Laci's body washed up in the exact area where Scott claimed he went fishing. They believe he used homemade concrete anchors to weigh her body down in the San Francisco Bay. Investigators focused heavily on Scott's calm demeanor, his quick efforts to sell Laci's car, and his attempt to turn their baby's nursery into a storage room shortly after her disappearance. The defense, led at trial by celebrity attorney Mark Garagos, argued that Scott was the victim of a massive rush to judgment by police who ignored other viable leads. A home directly across the street from the Petersons was burglarized around the time Laci disappeared. The defense has long maintained that Laci walked her dog, witnessed or confronted these burglars, and was abducted by them. Recently, the Los Angeles Innocence Project highlighted a burned out orange van found near the neighborhood shortly after Christmas Eve. They argued a mattress inside the van might have contained Laci's DNA, hinting at a connection to her abduction. The defense argued that Scott's 14-foot aluminum boat was too unstable for him to push a 150-pound body over the side without capsizing. And thus, the Marine Challenge was introduced by the defense. Ultimately, the jurors found that the defense's burglary timeline was inconsistent. The confessed burglars were cleared by police as having committed their crime on December 26th, not on Christmas Eve. The sheer weight of Scott's compounding lies and his flight risk behavior upon arrest were too much for the jury to overlook. As we get ready to turn onto Covina Avenue, let's discuss the psychology of a phenomenon. Why did this specific case, out of thousands of missing persons cases in America, generate such an unprecedented national obsession? Forensic psychologists and media analysts point to several powerful factors. First, it is the psychological horror of a crime involving a heavily pregnant woman. A mother preparing to give birth represents the ultimate symbol of vulnerability, hope, and the future. When that light is extinguished, it triggers a primal protective anger in the public. Second is the concept of confirmation bias, a psychological phenomenon where people selectively gather and interpret information that aligns with their pre-existing beliefs. For the public and investigators, once Scott's lies and affairs were exposed, every subsequent action he took was filtered through the lens of guilt. Conversely, for Scott's supporters, any alternative theory, no matter how tenuous, is seen as proof of a massive cover-up. The case also highlighted the double-edged sword of the 24-hour cable news cycle. It was the era of Nancy Grace and intense nightly legal commentary. The media didn't just report the news, they actively shaped public opinion, turning a tragic criminal trial into a highly rated soap opera. It was an environment where nuance was lost and emotional reactions often drowned out objective forensic analysis. As we prepare to drive out of the neighborhood, you will see many locations that searchers looked diligently for Laci and her unborn son Connor. As we take this journey, we reflect on the release of the newest documentary, Scott Peterson, The New Evidence, in which we will see a fresh wave of public debate. The project revisits the Berkeley Marina, utilizing modern hydrodynamic mapping to question whether Laci's body could have actually drifted to where it was found if she had been placed in the water where Scott was fishing. It also features previously unreleased defense tests involving a weighted dummy and a replica of Scott's boat, attempting to show the physical challenges of the prosecution's theory. Documentaries like these, along with Netflix's recent retrospective series, show that society's appetite for this story hasn't waned. But they also force us to ask a difficult question: are these documentaries seeking the objective truth, or are they capitalizing on our endless fascination with the tragic mystery? While some viewers see these new investigations as crucial work to ensure the integrity of our justice system, others view them as painful disruptions for a family that has spent 23 years trying to find peace. The way that we consume and analyze true crime has changed drastically since 2002. Back then, information was strictly gatekept by traditional news networks and newspapers. Today, we live in the age of decentralized investigation. True crime is driven by YouTube creators, amateur sleuths on Reddit, viral TikToks, and detailed investigative podcasts. Public access to court transcripts, police reports, and forensic data has never been higher. This democratization of information has led to real-world breakthroughs, helping solve cold cases and exposing genuine wrongful convictions. But it also carries a heavy risk. Without the training of homicide detectives or the legal guardrails of a courtroom, online speculation can quickly turn into a digital witch hunt, spreading misinformation and re-traumatizing victims' families. Standing on Covina Avenue and going out as we leave the neighborhood, we are reminded of the physical reality behind the digital screen. This isn't a fictional story. It isn't content to be consumed for entertainment. This was a real home where a real young woman lived, laughed, and looked forward to becoming a mother. As we look at this quiet house one last time, the noise of the headlines, the court battles, and the documentaries seems to fade away. Ultimately, this case should not be remembered merely for the husband who lies in a prison cell, or for the endless legal debates over his guilt or innocence. It must be remembered for Laci and Connor, who traveled these very streets. Laci's family, most notably her mother, Sharon Rocha, has spent more than 2 decades carrying an unspeakable grief. Through the pain, they fought to pass Laci and Connor's Law in California, which recognizes a fetus as a victim of homicide, ensuring that other families facing similar tragedies can seek justice. If there is any lesson to take away from this quiet house on Covina Avenue, it is that behind every sensational headline, there are real lives shattered, real families broken, and a community forever marked by a loss that can never be restored. Thank you for watching. As we discuss this case in the comments below, let's make sure we do so with the utmost respect for Laci, Connor, their family, and the current residents of this neighborhood. What are your thoughts on the new developments and the continuing debate surrounding this case?